through the show. Welcome back to the Gridiron Address. A great week of football this week. Sorry for the late start time. Carolina Panthers went into overtime with the Bucks. Unfortunately, they didn't pull it out, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. Joining me this week is, I'm just going to call him the co-host at this point, Chris Deluca, host of Dugout Debrief, and Shannon Smith, host of Quick Hits Podcast. Smitty, Shannon, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good, man. Hate it for the Panthers, man. I was looking forward to talking a good victory on the Cat Cave this week with my man Ryan Frick, but it might have to wait till another week.
Chris, how are you doing tonight? I know your Steelers won a pretty high-scoring game.
Yeah, we actually learned how to score points for once, which was really, really weird.
I know, but we'll start out real quick with a Steelers recap. Highest scoring Steelers-Bengals game since, what was it, 2000? I think it was at all time.
I don't know if it was all time. It's been in a while. It's been like the highest scoring, at least from my memory.
But yeah, I mean, like Chris said, they learned how to score points. Russell Wilson looked good this game. He had an interception, but I mean, 400 plus yards, few touchdowns, and granted, it was against a Bengals defense that is the fifth worst in scoring defense. Jason watching, what's up, Jason? Appreciate you. Also, Mike Tomlin, 18 consecutive seasons without a losing record. That is his entire tenure with Pittsburgh. To start us off, we got to talk about what Tomlin's been able to do in Pittsburgh. It feels unprecedented to be this consistently good. Like, he's been able to have some bad teams and bring them up to, 500 and winning records, which is just phenomenal. Chris, I will throw this question to you first as the resident Steelers fan. Where would you rank Mike Tomlin in a list of all-time NFL coaches?
I mean, at this point, I'd say he's top 5. And I think that's mainly by just his long-term success. I mean, this is the thing, is he's not this young head coach. People, I think, in their heads still think he's, this young up-and-coming head coach, and he's not. He's been there 18 years. And while he may not have as many rings as some legendary coaches like the Belichicks and the Parcells and people like them, I mean, the thing is to get to the playoffs, to get to the Super Bowl, you have to win in the regular season. And I get that we have fallen short in the playoffs, especially recently. But in a year like this year, especially if we can have a good run, I think that he 100% solidifies himself in the top 5. But in my opinion, I may be biased, but he's in my top 5 currently.
Shannon, same question to you. Where did you put Mike Tomlin all time?
I got to go with Chris. He's got to be in the top 5. And the reasoning for that is because 18 years of football, he's had a different team over a course of 18 years, different quarterbacks, different receiving core. He had Hines Ward and Antoine Randall. He's had young Roethlisberger. He's had Roethlisberger that was getting ready to retire. And then he's had to go through different quarterbacks, different running backs, Le'Veon Bell's, your defenses with big hair as the safety. He's had players that have been perennial, but he's also had perennial success out of all the teams that he's had, regardless of if it was that team that got in that was 10-6 or that squad that was going to the AFC Championship. He's found a way to turn around these teams, whether they were on top of the league or whether they were in the middle of the league. And with the squad that he's got now, he's showing just how well he can coach and how well he can put together a squad. We were all wondering why in the world he sat Justin Fields and then put in Russ. And then look what he's getting out of Russ. Look what he's getting out of his team. And it's not just Russ. They've got a very talented defense with a young TJ Watt. Very wonderful defense that he has. Sneaky good defense. And this squad just continues to just get better. It just seems like every time you think that they can't get over the hump, they do. And also it helps that the Ravens keep blowing it. And Cincinnati keeps blowing it, and Cleveland is Cleveland. That also helps.
It does. Jason saying Tomlin's not top 5, but he's top 10 for sure. He's thrown out a couple names there that he put ahead of Tomlin. It's tricky. I feel like, if he gets another ring, I think I can comfortably put him top 5. Right now, it's tentatively, but I feel like if he keeps this up, he's easily going down all-time great, solid top 5 position, and, we'll see him in the Hall of Fame eventually, I think, a while down the line. But like we said earlier, this Steelers offense is starting to pick it up a little bit. Do you, Shannon, do you think this is something that we can see more of with a kind of a high-flying Pittsburgh offense, or was this week's performance more on the Bengals having a compost heap of a defense, like Jason said?
Well, I think that this Bengals squad is just decimated right now. That coach is gone at the end of the year. That man is gone, and he should be, and rightfully so. Zach Taylor, sorry, dog. I can see the Steelers, maybe they may not put up stats like that every week, but a game like this does help with momentum. They're not a high-flying offense like one of those offenses like what we see out of Detroit or what we see out of Buffalo. They're consistent, and that is okay for a squad like Pittsburgh. It fits their identity. I don't think a game like this will exist again for this year, but that doesn't mean they're not going to keep winning.
Chris, same question to you. Are we going to see more high passing yards from Pittsburgh, or was this more of them exploiting a weak Bengals defense?
Well, I think it's a mixture of both, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously the Bengals defense is absolutely atrocious. Their secondary is really, really atrocious. But on the same card, I really do want to agree with Shannon in the sense that we are not a team like the Bills. We're not a team like the Lions who are going to have these crazy offensive, explosive offensive games against solid defenses. The way that Pittsburgh wins games is by tiring people out. We have a great defense and we make stops. We didn't do that today, and that's what kind of concerned me today. It was Bengals offense is obviously very good. This is probably the worst defensive performance we've had, despite the fact that we had guys, we had guys step up when they needed to. Peyton Wilson with that scoop and score, Dante Jackson with that interception. That is what we needed. And even when the offense is not the best, we can still win because we tire the other team out, and then our offense can strike when we need to. And that's why, especially after this win, I'm having a little bit more hope going into our harder games, going into our game against Kansas City, especially. I think Philadelphia is an L, I'm being completely honest with you. But I think Kansas City, we can put up a fight against them, especially with how lethargic they have been playing recently. I think we got a chance on Christmas Day, guys. I don't know what you think, but
I mean, honestly, I really think you do. If Carolina played them as close as they did, I think Pittsburgh's offense is more consistent than Carolina's, and their defense is arguably the best in the league. So I could definitely see Pittsburgh beating the Chiefs on Christmas Day. That wouldn't shock me, honestly. Shannon, what about you?
I think it's possible outcome as well, too, because Pittsburgh is a gritty squad just like Kansas City is. Kansas City has a gritty defense. I think Kansas City has a different identity than what they've had over the years because they've just been a grittier team. They've found ways to grind it out on other teams. Now, mind you, do I feel like there's been some questionability in some of their wins? Absolutely. I hate to be that person because I don't like to put it on officials or put it on other things outside of the actual game of football itself. But you can't sit back here and say that doesn't play a factor. So Pittsburgh has been in every single game that they've played, whether it comes down to defensively or offensively, they've been in every single game that they've played. And if Kansas City lets a team like Pittsburgh hang around, they'll take a loss. So this is something that they're with a squad that is more consistent than they have been. So Christmas, it might be a different outcome. I mean, Pittsburgh might be the one singing is beginning to look a lot like Christmas on that day.
And on the Bengals side of this, Shannon, like you said, Zach Taylor's probably gone at the end of the season. But what moves should Cincinnati make to start to right the ship? Chris, that'll go to you first.
I mean, I never really thought Zach Taylor was a great coach. I don't think he's a bad coach. I think he would make a good coordinator. I mean, he obviously got the team to the Super Bowl, but who gets the team to the Super Bowl predominantly is the players. They're a fantastic offense, and they lived and died by that. That's what the reason they fell in the Super Bowl. Do I think that they're firing the head coach is going to do anything necessarily? Yes and no. I don't think a lot of it's play call. I think they just need to draft a lot of guys in the secondary. They need to draft linemen. And I think that they should go and take this year. I'm not going to say tank, but I think they should take this year, get a better draft pick and see what they can go for. I mean, there's a lot of great defensive players in college who are about to go up, and I think they're a few pieces away from being another Super Bowl contender.
For sure. Shannon, what do you think Cincinnati should do?
Draft a daggum defense. Get a defense. There's a young man. If they play their cards right, now sign Chase. Oh, yeah. I mean, because you got to keep that passing game. Because Joe put up numbers. Like, Joe can ball. But he's got to – and get an offensive line, too. That's another thing. Get an offensive line. Joe running for his life. And so, I mean, it's good that Joe can still score and can still scramble, but Joe's on borrowed time. That young man is running for everything in this world. He dodging everything. That poor guy out there is on skates every time he has the football. It is not good. And you can't do that with your franchise guy. If that's your franchise guy, your franchise quarterback, you can't let that dude get beat up that much, man. So I would have to say first priority would be defense, like on the defense somewhere, get a good defensive draft pick. There's a wonderful guy by the name of Travis Hunter. If you can get there, if you can get him, that would be great. Jumpstart your defensive backfield and then go for that offensive line because they need the help.
For sure. I don't agree. I don't disagree with anything that you said. They need pretty much everything on that defense and offensive line. Burrow's entire career has been running for his life. I remember there was a whole Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell, and I feel like both sides of that argument are right because we're seeing that offense is electric, but they can't give Burrow enough time to do it consistently, and that's a problem. But to Jason's point, they 1,000% need to sign Jamar Chase. I feel like Joe Burrow would not be happy if they didn't re-sign him, and you got to keep your franchise guy happy. But moving on to the Panthers recap, honestly, devastating overtime loss. It felt like Carolina's offense was doing everything right. They were smart all game, no mistakes. Field goal range in OT, short one to win it, even though Pinero was 3 for 5 after having a solid season, and Hubbard fumbles it. I was a lot more upset when it initially happened, but like Chris had said, that was just a good play by the defense. Like, that's not on Hubbard. I think it was Anthony Nelson. He just got a good grip on the ball and ripped it out, and Diaby was right there to recover it. He was smart, didn't try and scoop it up, just jumped on it, and the defense blew it at the end of the game. They let Bucky Irving run all over him. Mike Evans was open whenever they needed him to be open. Just late collapses that you really hate to see. Shannon, I know you talk about Carolina a lot. Like you said, you were hoping you'd be able to talk about a good win, but what do you think Carolina needs to address, particularly on the defensive side of the ball? Because I feel like that is what we see collapse pretty frequently, whether in the run game or the lack of pressure they're able to generate.
There's got to be coverage. There's got to be pass coverage is one of the things. The defensive line got after Baker Mayfield. They sacked him, I believe, 5 times in that game. So that, to me, was something that was good. They got the pass rush in there. They were able to get Baker on skates. I hate that he got his ankle stepped on like that. That was brutal. Wasn't on purpose, which was good. It wasn't anything that was like foul play or nothing like that. And, everyone was considerably shocked about that. So there was no like cheering when he got hurt. So that was good. But it has to be the pass coverage because there were some times in there where Baker was able to complete passes where there was maybe little to no coverage. And even with the coverage, somebody like Mike Evans, who is hard to cover from the get go, he's a very tough receiver to cover. He was able to get open. Bucky Urban was doing what he done. So I would say it has to be in the pass coverage. And by the way, an unrelated note, Adam Thielen caught that pass.
100%. And what bugged me is I'm not sure who was calling the game. On that one-handed catch in overtime, they said, "Oh, we forgive you for dropping that touchdown." He didn't drop the damn touchdown. It's ridiculous.
No, exactly. I said the same thing. I'm like, no, he caught that. He had a knee, he had an elbow, and the camera angle did not show. They showed the bad camera angle where the goalpost got in the way, to where you couldn't see him with the control of the ball, and that's why that pass. That's why that call stood the way it was as an incomplete pass. So it was a bad camera angle. He had that ball. He caught that. So yeah, that could have been the difference in the game. But once again, I don't want to be that type of guy because if wishes a bust for Kenny and we'd all have a Merry Christmas. So I don't want to be that guy.
Jason saying leader of Carolina's defense is non-existent. And to that, I would say they are down Shaq Thompson and Derek Brown. Those are the two leaders on the defense that I think are very good leaders for that defense. So I agree. Like, the last two games have changed my mind a little bit on what Carolina needs to do. I was big Mason Graham, get a good pass rusher, someone who can help out and run defense as well. But 9 sacks over the last 2 games. They had 4 sacks today. That's changing my mind a little bit. Will Johnson out of Michigan to be a homer again real quick. I just got to say, go Blue. They beat Ohio State again. You love to see it. I just got to mention it real quick. That was amazing. I was listening to the game while I was at work. It was phenomenal. I couldn't get too excited because it's an open kitchen and there's customers out there, but that was awesome. I'm inclined to agree with Shannon about them fixing coverage, but Chris, what do you think Carolina should go after?
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, offensive line, I think, because we're kind of at that point. We've been talking about this for the past easily 4, 5, 6 weeks on the Gridiron address about Bryce Young in general. And if they want to commit to staying with him, I think they need to go for a really good offensive lineman with their first round pick. That or receiver. There's a certain receiver out of Texas who's pretty darn good that, I think he might follow him, but I'd say a receiver or offensive lineman, or just, you want to build around Bryce Young. You want to build his confidence. So get him a piece that is going to build said confidence.
Mm-hmm. Chris, you've mentioned it before. I can see the point of wide receiver. I just strongly disagree on the offensive line. Granted, they were kind of failing him late, but they have been good this year. It's been the most consistently good unit for Carolina. They're tied for the 5th fewest sacks allowed per game. I think it's 1.8, tied with Arizona. Mm-hmm. So I can definitely see wide receiver. Thielen's not going to be around too much longer. Legette's having some issues with drops. That's something that we're seeing. It's hitting him in the hands, and he's just not coming up with it. And hopefully he can bounce back. But McMillan out of Arizona is another guy who comes to mind that'll be there, latter part of the top 10. But that's something I got to.
Ryan Smith will be from Alabama.
Is he draft eligible?
Genty?
I think he is. I think Ryan Smith's draft. I think he is. Also, the young man out of Ohio State, I believe, is a senior this year. I think so.
Oh yeah, Egbuka is draft eligible for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's someone I wouldn't mind. I've been high on him for a couple years now. I'd love to see that. Honestly, I'm a Michigan fan, but I didn't grow up in the rivalry, so I don't have any type of serious hatred for Ohio State players. But onto the Tampa side of this game, NFC South is a mess. Like, if Carolina won, they were only going to be a couple games out. Tampa's got Mike Evans back. That offense is looking better. Bucky Irving's getting hot. Shannon, do you think they could push Atlanta for that NFC South title? And also, Kirk Cousins threw 4 interceptions, so he is not looking good. I mean, atrocious game out of him.
It just goes to my point where I've said before that Kirk Cousins is either really, really good or really, really bad. And when he's good, he's good. Because he threw 500 yards and 4 touchdowns on Matty Ice night. And then today, he threw 4 picks against the Los Angeles Chargers. And Lord have mercy, 3 straight losses. I thought that Tampa Bay was going to win the NFC South this year. I thought they were going to repeat. They would be the first squad to repeat, I believe, in the past, I want to say 5-6 seasons. They'll be the first repeat winner if they do it this year. And I think they will repeat. I had them as the preseason winner because I didn't trust Atlanta, because I really thought that they were doing some crazy stuff at quarterback with getting Penix Jr. and getting Kirk Cousins, and I did not believe in New Orleans. So I thought there would be Carolina and Tampa Bay fighting for it, but no, that didn't happen. But as far as that, I think that Tampa Bay, I believe, will have it because I think they've actually consistently played better football than all 4 teams in the NFC South. They have a very, very strong offense. They have go-getters on defense. So I don't see that out of Atlanta. I see spurts out of Atlanta. I see spurts. And then, of course, New Orleans getting rid of their coach and having to rebuild their whole plan. And they're not really sold on Derek Carr. I just don't see any of the other squads holding a candle to Tampa Bay, even though it is by a small margin.
Shannon, real quick, I just checked. If the Bucks won the division this year, it would be their 4th in a row, which would be tied for the most consecutive in the history of the division. The Saints won 17, 18, 19, and 20. And Carolina was the first team ever to win consecutive division titles, 13, 14, and 15.
Mm-hmm.
Back when they were actually a good football team, but I can't spend too much time fantasizing on a decade ago. It's just going to make me sad, honestly. But moving on to the rapid fire segment, we're going to try and hit on some other games that we didn't really go into too much detail on. Chris, first question is going to go to you. The Commanders they're dominant against really bad teams with losing records, and the second they come up against a good team, they struggle. Are you concerned with this pattern when it comes to their playoff hopes?
Yeah, I mean, I am. I really am. I don't think they're going to win the division. I think that they are a very good team. They have a lot of great pieces. McLaurin, Daniels, Robinson Jr. Obviously, the defense is very respectable. They stuffed Tennessee, but again, that's Will Levis in Tennessee. Will Levis, bro, don't even know what he's doing half the time. So I'm going to have to say that the Commanders' best win was against the Bengals, and the Bengals are a very good offense. That was a close game. And one thing that I do want to give Washington is they hold, when they play good teams, for the most part, they hold them close. Lost 30-23 to Baltimore. Lost 28-27 to Pittsburgh. Philly, they kept close, 26-18. But the fact of the matter is, even if they can scooch in and get that last wild card spot, I could not see them beating any playoff caliber team once they get in. I mean, if you're looking at the schedule they have left, they have the Saints, they can win that. Eagles are going to lose to. Falcons are 50-50. Cowboys, I mean, hey, how the Cowboys played on Thanksgiving, I think that's almost 50-50 too, especially because I already lost to the Cowboys earlier. So I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be one of those situations where it's down to the last game of the year to determine if Washington gets in or not.
Mm-hmm. And real quick, if the results hold, Washington's going to be the 7th seed, and they're going to be matched up against their division rivals, the Philadelphia Eagles. That's an absolute nightmare for Washington. They would get smacked. Real quick, to interrupt our segment, it is President of Boom Broadcasting, Michael Davis. How do I feel losing in our fantasy football league right now? You know I'm projected to win, right? And you're only up by 4 points. So I'd calm it down a little bit, because if you lose, you're done and you're eliminated from the playoffs. And if I beat you, I'm going to be insufferable. You're not going to hear the end of it. So that's a bold move bringing up fantasy football. But Shannon, the the Texans are struggling. They're playing bad teams close. They're playing good teams close. But this is the second time they played the Jaguars. It's been a one-score game both times they played this season. But fortunately for the Texans, the AFC South is a mess. They're probably going to walk through and win the division. But could this Texans team be a first-round exit due to their inconsistent play this season?
I think so. They're the de facto winner of the NFC South. We talk about the AFC South. Sorry, we talk about the NFC South being unpredictable, not knowing what's going on. We don't know what we're gonna get out of the NFC South. The AFC South is worse. Oh my Lord! The Colts, yeah, they had to switch quarterbacks, and then Jacksonville's had injuries. And then the Trevor Lawrence hit. That was kind of rough right there.
That was terrible. And the fact that he acted surprised that it was a flag, have some amount of awareness. That's
really.
I almost killed a guy and it's a flag. What?
Right. I looked at him. I'm like, really? How do you expect not to get flagged for that? You hit him like when he was going out of bounds. Dude, you knew that. And so that was a heinous hit. And, he deserved to get ejected. I hate to say that. But Houston's been, once again, it's one of those things where they hold teams close. It's kind of like Kansas City. They're holding teams close. And a good team will finish the job. Maybe C.J. Stroud's having a sophomore slump. Maybe it's the injuries. Maybe it's the inconsistent play of the defense. I think they will be a first-round exit. They're still a young squad. They've had to really scrap because of injuries. Stephon Diggs being out for the season wasn't what they planned on. Joe Mixon up and down in the running game. The defense might not be as good as we thought it was, but still they're a work in progress. D'Amico Ryans is going to have his work cut out for him, but I think he's going to get that squad back to winning. And it is AFC South, so that's the only thing that keeps them pretty relevant is that they got a bad conference.
Mm-hmm. Chris, kicking it back to Thanksgiving game, the Bears with some absolutely atrocious time management. They had, I think it was 30 seconds, 26 seconds, a ridiculous amount of time with a timeout. They let the clock run down and just absolutely blow it. Would you say that this is one of the worst clock mismanagements in NFL history?
Yeah, especially based on context too, considering Chicago should have now 3 wins because of just crazy out of pocket, let's say, stuff that happened. That Matt Eberflus, I was never really big on him when they hired him in general. I think he was the big one holding Caleb Williams back. Do I think that this is going to save Chicago? No. But I was actually at work when that happened, and I went on break about 5 minutes after it happened, and all I'm seeing on social media is that saga or that sequence right there, and that was painful. That was like you're lagging in college football 25 or Madden or something like that, that was just lower than high school.
That's some pee-wee kind of stuff right there. I don't even know if they have a running clock in elementary school football, but just absolutely ridiculous. Last question for this segment. Shannon, arguably the best kicker of all time, Justin Tucker, 2 for 4 on field goals today and a missed extra point. He's been bad all season, most accurate kicker of all time going into the year. Do we think that we're actively watching the end of his career this season?
I think so. He's done a lot as a kicker. He's this generation's Gary Anderson, if you will, or maybe their Vinatieri. Only Vinatieri has been clutch winning games by a Tom Brady guy getting him in the right position to do it. But Justin Tucker, I think, is going to be. I think he's done a good bit. He's done enough. I think it's time for him to go. He's getting a little long in the tooth. Sometimes you just got to know when to walk away from the buffet table, when you got to walk away from the card table. You got to know when to hold them, got to know when to fold them. I think that Justin Tucker will be done. But you know what? Good career. Great job.
And moving on to the primetime preview, we're running long, so we're going to try and get through this a little quicker. Jason's saying it's just a bad year. Kickers can play well into their 40s. He'll be fine. I hope it is because, you hate to see a all-time great at the position just drop off. So I hope he can bounce back. I'd love to see him keep playing. But 49ers, Bills, at the start of the season, I thought this game would have been really good. 49ers going in, I thought they could have been NFC contenders, get back to the Super Bowl, but injury bug, and they have just not looked like the same 49ers team that we saw last year. Shannon, like we said before, their Super Bowl windows pretty much closed at this point. Bills 6.5-point favorites. 49ers they're teetering on the edge of playoff contention. They really need a win after Seattle was able to come back and beat the Jets. Shout out Geno Smith for getting a win against them. I love that for him. But
WU.
Shannon, this Bills offense is putting up the third most points in the league. How are you feeling going into this game, and what do you think the 49ers need to do to pull out a win?
Well, the only thing that's helping me out, makes me feel better right now, is that it is an absolute blizzard outside. So that is going to save the big plays for the majority of the game. And this will be a ground control football game, which is what the 49ers really need and really want, because they have the offensive line for it. They have the running game for it. So I think this might be closer than what a lot of people think. I'm just glad that, the weather effect is what's doing it, because if this was a natural ground game with no crazy weather, then we might be seeing something different. I'm still holding out hope for my 49ers. Brock Purdy's playing right now. He's actually running in as we speak. So I'm glad for that after the atrocious Green Bay game from last week, where there was no offensive productivity and the defense was left on an island. This will be a very interesting game, and I think this will be a closer game. But with the home field that the Bills got, I think that they may come away with it. I hope I'm wrong, but we will see.
Chris, how are you feeling for the 49ers going into this game? Do you think that they can pull off an upset, Bills big favorites, high-flying offense, or are we going to see more of the same 49ers and they're just going to blow it?
Unfortunately for them, I think that this is kind of going to be similar to what we saw with Green Bay. I mean, it's the weather again is a factor, which, as Shannon said, will limit big plays. But the fact of the matter is they got healthy. McCaffrey got healthy. Purdy's healthy. They got the guys there, and they're still not able to perform. And I kind of think it's just too late for them. I think this is a critical game to get into it. If they have a chance, if McCaffrey can really go crazy, that's obviously going to be a run-heavy game because of the cold and the snow. But who knows? Maybe McCaffrey breaks off 2 touchdowns and takes a lead there. Buffalo's offense can be hit or miss, obviously. It's very good. They've scored 30 points 3 weeks in a row, by the way. That's something I realized today. So exactly 30. But I'm still going to go with Buffalo by 2 scores.
Jason saying pretty low scoring game, Bills 17, 49ers 3 in a snow bowl. I'm inclined to agree with Chris and Jason. I think the Bills get it done. I think, the snow will make it a little more low scoring than I would think if it was just no crazy weather going on. I'll go Bills 21, 49ers. I think they get 14. Bills will win by 10. Shannon, you got a final score prediction before we head out?
You know what? I'll go ahead, since everybody's taking and going against my guys. I will say 16-10 in favor of my 49ers. Bang, bang, Niner gang.
Got to respect back in your team there, but that'll do it for week 13 of the Gridiron Address. Again, it's been Aaron Schneider with Shannon Smith and Chris Deluca. Go check out their shows on Boom Broadcasting's YouTube channel. They both put out great content on a weekly basis. Be sure to check them out. And if you want to see full predictions from me and Chris on a weekly basis, go to our Instagram, Football and More. Chris has got, I think, he's got me by 12 right now, so I'm not going to pull ahead, honestly. I keep
more now because the Steelers won.
I know. I picked the Panthers too, so it's going to be like 14 or something at the end of this week. I think you're at like a 70% correct rate, and that's really good. I'm at like 65, which is also good, but just not good enough Again, that'll do it for week 13. Thank you all for watching, and let's go watch